It was a messy start to the work week, but tonight the rain has tapered off.
So what is left behind? Clear skies, cold temperatures, but looking ahead, Jeff, we have all of the above for this week.
Yeah, we have, and Evan had talked about it earlier because I hadn't even noticed. Temperatures in the next 7 days, highs 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, all in the next 7 days. So we had some rain around earlier. Right now, still some clouds left, a little bit of clearing trying to move in from the north, but everything again has basically moved on out to sea in terms of the precipitation. Right now, basically the same temperature that we had earlier, 43 degrees. That wind coming in right now out of the north, and the pressure is still rising as that front has moved out. Now high pressure is set to move in. Let's talk about the changes earlier. High for today was 69 last night just after midnight. 9 o'clock in the morning, it was still 66. And then just a half an hour later, we were down to 55, and then 11 minutes after that, we were down to 48. So we had an 18-degree drop in a span of about 40-some minutes. Right now, and that was all because of the northerly wind. And we still have that northerly wind, especially in areas right near the coast. That is why these cold conditions are going to continue tonight and into tomorrow. We're not going to go a whole lot lower tonight on average, most of us down into the upper 30s. And then tomorrow, we're not going to see a big rise either as the cold air will settle in. You can see pretty minimal rain chances. We'll talk more about that coming up.
All right, one by one, Franklin residents came before City Council tonight with their electric bills in hand. $800, $900, in some cases, more than $1,000 for small apartments and homes.
They say it's just not right and they need help. Robert Boyd was at that meeting tonight where voices were raised, but no promises were made.
Well, we saw it all tonight. We saw residents yelling at City Council. We saw residents crying to City Council, and we saw residents questioning City Council. Why? Why is their electric bill higher than their rent? And in some cases, people are worried they're going to lose their homes.
People are living check to check, just trying to pay the light bill.
You're going to put everybody in the street, and we don't want to go in the street. We don't need to be in the street.
We need some help now.
Standing room only in Franklin City Council chambers Monday, the majority of these people say the city, who runs their own electric company, has nearly doubled their bills in the last month.
We paid a light bill last month for $530. This month we got one for $930. And I have the bill right here in my pocket.
The city manager says electric use is the highest it's ever been, blaming it on the extreme winter weather. But residents say their bills have always been too high. It's not the weather, it's the system and equipment.
They'll either do something about the bill, or I will board this house up and move from Franklin. Because apparently they do not want me here.
Then there's Patricia Abrams, who has no choice. She said she is already being evicted.
I'm 61 years old. I got COPD. I've had a heart attack. What do I do? Sleep in my car?
And in an unusual move, City Councilman Greg McLemore addressed his fellow council members from the public podium. He suggested using money from the city's general fund to help residents pay their bills.
The federal government, they give us help when we have a disaster. The state government helps us. It's time for the city to help the people. Thank you.
Now, City Council did discuss for several hours possible solutions to these high electric bills. No long-term solution, but they did guarantee that at least for the next 2 weeks, no one's lights will be shut off. In Franklin, Robert Boyd, 13 News Now.
Tonight, we know that children were thrown from an SUV after it flipped on I-64. We brought you this as breaking news earlier this evening on 13 News Now at 5:30. State police tell us an SUV driver swerved to avoid hitting cars that were slowing down near Mercury Boulevard in Hampton. The SUV hit a Mercedes and then flipped over. We are told 2 or 3 children were thrown from the SUV. A man got out and limped away. Medics took the woman who was driving along with 3 children to Riverside Regional Medical Center. No word yet on the extent of their injuries. State police are investigating and they say charges are pending. Tonight, the search continues for the person who killed a 17-year-old boy. It happened just before 4:30 this afternoon at 32nd Street and Marshall Avenue in the east end of Newport News. We brought you this as breaking news. Officers were already patrolling the area and found the teen just moments after the gunshots. Medics pronounced the teen dead on the scene.
Newport News police were actually in the area, heard some gunshots. They arrived at 32nd Marshall and unfortunately found a young man lying on the ground. One homicide's one too many, and hopefully somebody come forward so we can solve this.
This is the second homicide in Newport News this year. So far, police have no suspect information. They're asking anyone with information to call the crime line.
Popular bartender on the downtown Norfolk scene is in the hospital tonight. Norfolk police say Jonathan Cox was hit by a drunk driver last night on Granby Street. Cox was standing outside Jack Brown's beer and burger joint where he works. He was smoking a cigarette when police say John Vanderwilt drove an SUV onto the sidewalk, hitting Cox. Vanderwilt is charged with DUI. Meanwhile, workers at a nearby restaurant, Grace O'Malley's Irish Pub, are raising money to help Cox recover from his injuries.
It could have been easily one of my waitresses, my bartenders, my cooks, you know, so we're just going to try to do what we can to help. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family, you know, hopefully he makes a speedy recovery.
Now, at last check, Cox is in critical condition. We also learned this is even harder on his family because his best friend died last month, also hit by a drunk driver. Portsmouth woman goes to great lengths in an elaborate fraud scheme. She even faked her own death. Today, 50-year-old Alexandra Hatcher was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Hatcher's husband received the same sentence last month. Authorities say the couple submitted false death claims in an effort to collect on life insurance policies. The scheme included making fake death certificates and publishing a death notice in a newspaper. The Hatchers also frequently and fraudulently obtained at least 20 luxury cars using counterfeit checks and resold them for cash.
A local teenager is using his art to spread a message that could save lives. In 2016, more than 800 people were injured and 13 killed in crashes involving distracted teen drivers. This year, the DMV is hosting a contest for high school students to get involved in cutting down those numbers. Chanu talked to a student involved.
Well, Regina, this contest is asking for teens to submit their own license plate designs to the DMV. Nearly 200 students submitted work, and now it's been narrowed to 8 finalists. One of them is a 17-year-old student at Cape Henry Collegiate School in Virginia Beach.
I like to draw things that interest me.
You don't have to search far to see Mason Dodzik's creativity and his imagination.
You can see I have this one, which is all super expressive.
Through finished pieces and mounds of sketchbooks and canvases, this is much more than just a hobby for this 17-year-old. It's an explosive passion.
I applied to Virginia Tech last semester and I got in early decision. I don't exactly just want to be a professional painter, but I'd like to get into the field of art and design.
This future Hokie has honed in on his craft, and
my grandfather cut out the news clipping from the article.
With a little nudge from his family, he's taking it on the road. A few months ago, Mason submitted a license plate design into a DMV contest aimed at creating awareness of distracted driving. Mason.
Today, especially in 2018, everybody has a phone. Nobody drives without their phone on them.
Took aim at asking drivers to put their phones down, eyes up. His design is now one of 8 finalists in the contest, soon going to a public vote.
For this message to be there, like staring back at you, you're driving and you see it there, it says, I can wait. Like, how much more obvious can it be?
Obvious that Mason's art can be used to make a difference.
So yeah, it's really obviously been my thing.
All right, a few things. Public voting starts a week from tomorrow and goes until March 20th. There is also another local student who is a finalist. Her name is Abigail Polanski from Jamestown High School in Williamsburg. She is one of the 8 left. The grand prize is $1,000. We'll have all this information on our website and on my Facebook. Chanu Hurt, 13 News Now.
Great story there, Chanu. Well, cars are slowing down on residential streets in Chesapeake thanks to something called speed tables. Think of them as bigger speed bumps. 4 were installed on Ashley Road and 2 on nearby Stadium Drive. Residents say people used to fly through their neighborhood to get to main roads, but the speed tables seem to be working. City leaders have been researching the pilot program. They wrapped up their survey recently. And the last year, the average speeds on the small streets went down from 40 miles an hour to about 25.
We were on typically getting about 300 people a day going through the neighborhood at speeds greater than 35 miles per hour. And since we've put in the speed tables, we've cut that down to about 50 people per day.
We are told the city hopes to expand the speed tables to other trouble spots. Next, they will present their data to City Council and a public hearing will follow.
Amazon is laying off hundreds of workers, a move that some may find surprising. A source within the company says several hundred jobs will be cut in Seattle and hundreds of others elsewhere. In a statement, Amazon says it is making adjustments across the company. Workers who were laid off are encouraged to apply for the company's open positions in other locations. Amazon is one of the nation's largest corporate employers in the U.S. Barnes & Noble is closing some of its stores and laying off some of its employees. We learned the bookstore chain announced layoffs today after a drop in sales this holiday season. Barnes & Noble would not give details on the number of workers affected. We're told many of the employees found out they lost their jobs when they showed up for work today. Barnes & Noble is said to be working on a turnaround plan.